the day that we present our introductory talks. Any questions before we get started? Any issues that came up this week that you want to talk about?
Should we do a questions phase after the presentation?
We can probably let's do everything first and then we'll do the presentations.
Okay. No, I mean questions about the presentation itself.
Oh, no. Yeah, we can do that after, obviously. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you had problems with the presentation. I mean...
Yeah, just that we are recording that, so I don't know if it's like, if it makes sense to do a questions phase, you know.
Oh, yeah, we could probably, we could do a questions phase. But,
okay.
Yeah. So, and then we'll have, this is like your first presentation, and then we're going to do another one at the end of the summer with, where it changes. You would have, like, this is, sort of your proposal, and then a little bit of, where does this go from here? And then at the end of the summer, you're going to have what you did, and then comparing it with what you did in the first presentation, the lessons you learned and so forth. So it's going to be nice to see them side by side. The first thing, though, we have to talk about is our board. Let's see if I can get the chat here. So let's review our board. Actually, if you go to the repository, you'll see I have directories for each of you now. And if you want to commit stuff to those directories, that's fine. If you want to make your own with different labels, that's fine too. But after last week when Stefan mentioned that we needed to settle on a place to commit everything, I thought, well, yeah, maybe we should make make the home repository a bit more structured so we can commit stuff to a central place. So if you go to projects and you click on that, and you click on group readings review, you get our board. And so what do we have on our board? We'll go from done and we'll go back towards to do. So in done we have exchange proposals and get in touch with SimBrain developers. That was specific to Stefan. And so that's done. In progress we have work on presentations. So I take both of you are ready to present today. So I talked to Jesse. Jesse won't be joining us today. He had a family issue. So he's going to present later on in a different setting. But I think he's doing all right with his presentation. And, I'll talk to him separately. So we'll move this issue number 2. We'll move that over to done. And then documentation with Jupyter Notebooks, number 5. Are both of you set up with Jupyter Notebooks or some other documentation?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just I have some troubles writing Jupyter Kotlin documentation. So as I wanted, because it doesn't appear to work on Windows that well. But I maybe will then just write it Python documentation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That sounds good.
All right. So we'll put that in done. And present papers. So I got where I put the schedule of papers up. I think I can't remember which Slack channel that was. I think it was in the Braitenberg Vehicles channel. And it's just a schedule of who is going first, who is going second, and who is going third. Now with Jesse, we might have to change the week, but that's okay. We all have papers picked. So this is, I don't know if I have it in this note, but basically I think Stefan is the first person to go next week. We'll have to consult the schedule again. And then each week we'd have someone else present. So what you can do, Stefan, is re-up your paper in the Slack channel, or I can do it, and we'll do it like later this week or like Monday, and then people can look through it, and then by next week you would have a presentation for that paper, and it doesn't have to be really detailed. That's just to go over it, mention the main idea of the paper, and then maybe some figures where you can show kind of what's going on, what their findings were, and then how is this maybe relevant to what we're doing. Or I noticed the papers kind of straddle like neuroscience and artificial intelligence. So if you can like sort of focus on that bridge, that would be nice. So it gives everyone an idea of how this is valuable to going across the disciplines, because a lot of people in neuroscience. We lose someone. We lose Ziyi.
Yeah, I guess Ziyi's disconnected.
Okay. A lot of people, they make claims about the brain and AI. Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Hi, you're back.
Sorry, I was about.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people in AI make claims about the brain, and they say, the brain does this, or my AI behaves like the brain. But that isn't always the case. In fact, it's rarely the case that that's exactly true, because the brain does a lot of things. We have a hypothesis of why that is. Like, we have a hypothesis, say, that neural networks are replicating the connectivity of the brain, but we don't really have any strong evidence that that's all the brain does, or that like the things that you use in a neural network model are replicating what the brain does, because there are gaps in terms of like the behavior of neural networks, the ability to simulate certain behaviors. Some behaviors they do very well on, and other behaviors they don't. So we don't know exactly why that is. It's probably, people have attempted to use like backprop as like feedback, and there are other mechanisms and tricks you can do to, improve performance. But we really, when you model something, you try to pick the most important things and put them in the model. You don't build a replica of something. And so the key is, are we really keying in on the right things in our models? Maybe we aren't. Maybe we are to some extent. So we don't really know. So that's why I wanted you to talk about like the connection between neuroscience and AI. And that holds for you too, Z, in terms of your paper presentation. So, just give that a little bit of consideration. I'd give the whole presentation maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
So it would be, it wouldn't be like super in depth, but it would just be enough to give us a good, something to think about. So that's good. And then, so the schedule should be in the Slack channel. Consult that place, and then we'll re-up the papers every week so that people can look at them. All right. So I think let's go to the board. Let's finish the board, actually. So present papers, we'll still leave that in progress. Set up presentation schedule. Okay, that's where it is. Okay, so it looks like, Stefan is June 8th. Ziyi is June 22nd. And Jesse is June 15th. And like I said, Jesse might have to move back a week or so, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So that's actually, that presentation schedule is done. We'll move number 8 over to done. Share resources and implementation ideas. That's still open. We discussed that last week with Stefan. He talked about Kotlin and talked about sharing things in Python and things like that. So, I don't expect you to, make everything so that you can share it. But if there are resources that you think might be of interest to others or shareable, please make those available or point those out. You can point them out in Slack, or you can, just leave a note in GitHub somewhere. So people are aware of what other people are doing. Basically, I just want to prevent people from reinventing the wheel on something. That's
Yeah,
all.
sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so, setting up programming environments, number 3. Are you both pretty secure in what you, the kind of environments you want to use?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm good on my side.
Okay.
So I've set up my IntelliJ, and yeah, and it works fine.
Okay. Ziyi, are you pretty secure in your?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I know Stefan had some, like, he wanted to go the Kotlin route, and I was looking up Kotlin online, just a little cursory overview of it. So it looks interesting. Is this like something do you think is it just like the best way to do what you want to do, or is it something you want to learn and incorporate into your work in general?
I've picked Kotlin and Tornado FX because it's kind of a modern language and a modern framework to prohibit that our code becomes obsolete. And also, one must say, if we would compare the amount of code, like the amount of lines one would write in JavaFX, for instance,
Yeah.
and one that you write in Tornado FX, it would be like twice as much, when not more code. Yeah, so it's just it saves you amount of code. It's really a good language with good language abilities for the project, and that's why I picked it. Yeah, it's also pretty modern, and it's not so hard. I mean, it's not so hard to write on. So
Yeah. Well, that's good.
sometimes I understand it even better than Java, although I've written much more in Java than in Kotlin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really a great thing. That's why I picked it.
Well, good.
I will also talk a little bit about this in my presentation today.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I guess, yeah, and then there's some to-dos. Community evaluation number 10. What was that? That was
Oh yeah, it was about this simulation that that I proposed that we disseminate it a little bit once the GUI is ready. That just maybe some people from the community can take a quick look at it, how they like it from the user interface point of view and stuff.
yeah. Okay. So those can remain in to-do. Do we have any other issues we want to put on the board? Can you think of anything that might be an issue in the next week or two that we can include on the board?
Nope.
Okay.
Nah, I also can't think about anything.
Okay. Well, if you think about something during the course of the week, you're welcome to put them up on the board, and then we'll review it. So I think, like I said, Jesse's out for the day. He'll join us next week, hopefully. But right now we're going to do our presentation.